the month of March. So we're going to kind of go through each one of these and talk about the impacts that we saw. First up, Winter Storm Riley. This nor'easter battered the New England shoreline with giant waves. Riley prompted wind and coastal flood alerts for as many as 56 million Americans. 9 deaths across 6 states were related to this storm. Then we had Winter Storm Quinn just a week later. It was a coast-to-coast storm before turning into a nor'easter for the I-95 corridor. Quinn linked to 10 deaths. And Winter Storm Skylar made its appearance less than a week after Quinn. It targeted parts of the Northeast with near blizzard conditions. Boston's St. Patrick's Day parade did go ahead, but organizers modified the route to avoid the biggest snow piles. And then there was Toby, the 4th nor'easter of March of 2018. This winter storm spread snow from the mid-Atlantic into Maine. Toby shut schools in Baltimore, Boston, New York City, and Philadelphia. This nor'easter was linked to 4 deaths. All right, so Julie, I think a lot of people are surprised to hear, hey, you get a lot of snow in March, and for some cities, you actually get most of your snow in the month of March.
It's really interesting when you look at it, because you're absolutely right. Most people think, oh, it's March, it's over.
Right.
But especially as we get here into the plains, where we see this light yellow color, that's actually the snowiest month of the year typically. So places like Denver typically get the most snow of the season in March. So it's not out of the ordinary at all for places like Great Falls, Montana. You're averaging almost a foot of snow every March. Cheyenne, Wyoming, another place. Denver, as I mentioned, and even Rapid City, South Dakota. So definitely not out of the norm at all. And in fact, the average snowfall totals after March 1st are actually quite high for many of these places. You look at these pinks and the burgundies here on the screen. That's anywhere from, say, a foot to a foot and a half of snow here across much of, say, the upper Midwest and certainly the central and northern plains. So, yes, March can bring a lot of snow. In fact, after March 1st in Boston of all places, yes, you usually average about 9.7 inches. Chicago, you usually pick up half a foot of snow in March. Minneapolis, over a foot, and so on. So there you see it. Look at Flagstaff there. And by the way, these maxes here, back there, look at that Flagstaff picking up almost 100 inches of snow in March. That was back in 1965, so that's really saying something. So Kelly, it's really not unusual, even though many of us don't like it. It does happen.
Unless you're a kid. I know even some places in the South actually saw the most snow in the month of March back in '93. Remember that?
Yeah.
Storm of the century. So let's talk about Scott. Certainly not a storm of the century, but it is being, impacting some of these towns and cities across the middle of the country. Reynolds is in St. Louis, so they're going to get a couple of inches of snow.
Yeah, a couple of inches there, and of course, it's a pretty fast mover as well. So by tomorrow, by late tonight into tomorrow, it's all going to be on the East Coast and then out of here. But we still have these winter storm warnings up. Denver's still under an advisory for a couple more hours here, still getting some snow falling. I think they picked up around 3 inches yesterday.
Yeah, officially 3 inches. But even northern Arkansas, hey, you guys got a little bit of accumulating snow coming your way. We saw that rain change over to snow, even a little bit of ice for a time in Tulsa. Thankfully, though, it's now more of a snow event because snow is preferable, right, over the ice. But here comes the snow. It's going to make progress to the east between Kansas City, St. Louis, eventually, Julie, filling in across the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, so a couple of inches. The good news is it is a quick mover, so it's not just going to sit and dump snow like many systems do.
Yes.
It will be on the move, but I think some of the big cities in the Northeast could get maybe more than we even anticipated. I mean, maybe half a foot or more for places like New York and Philadelphia.
Yeah, so the footprint for Scott, not as much, actually. We're talking about a swath of 1 to 3, but there will be some amounts of 3 to 5 right between Kansas City, maybe getting close to St. Louis as well. But look at northern Arkansas, western parts of Kentucky, and even northwestern Tennessee. You've got a chance of seeing some accumulation of snow, albeit on the minor side.
Yeah, and then things ramp up a little bit, as I mentioned, once we get into the east.